In this video, I'll be sharing with you how to cut this stylish halter neck gathered dress with an underbust corset belt. So to start, this dress is in two ways. We have like an halter neck gathered dress, then the underbust corset on it. So we'll be working on the upper part first, which I marked out the shoulder to bust, under bust and waistline. Now I'll go ahead to mark my shoulder divided by 2, and from that point I'll come down by 1 inch. Now I'll mark a basic neckline of 3 inches, and after marking that I'll come down by 2.5 inches. Now I'll go ahead to connect this. After connecting, I'll go ahead to place my ruler from the shoulder to that point I have on that 1 inch shoulder slant. I'll find my chest line, which is your bust circumference divided by 6 plus 1.5 inches, and I will draw out a straight line. Now I'll go ahead to place my shoulder measurement back on my pattern here, and after marking that I'll place my ruler and I'll connect. Now I'm going to go ahead to divide what I have here into 2, come out by 1/2 inch. Here I'll be marking my bust circumference divided by 4. Now from this point, now I'll connect to the midpoint of the armhole and to the upper part of this pattern. Now after I'm done marking that, the next step I'm going to take is to go ahead to start marking my measurements. So I'm supposed to mark a dart, but after looking at the dress I felt it didn't have a dart, but a closer look showed that it had a dart. So after marking my body measurement, I'll insert my dart. I marked my bust circumference divided by 4 and added my sewing allowance, marked my under bust circumference divided by 4, added my sewing allowance, and marked my waist circumference divided by 4 and also added my sewing allowance. If you look at the dress, it looks like it doesn't have a dart, but a closer look at it. So I'll go ahead to mark my nipple to nipple divided by 2, and I'll go ahead to place my ruler and draw a straight line. I'll be marking 1/2 inch on both sides, and I'll come down by 1 inch. Now I'm going to go ahead to connect this back to that point. Now after connecting, I'll be replacing all these darts. Here is 1 inch because 1/2 inch on both sides, then pick up what I have here and mark. Now I'll now go ahead to connect this back to my measurement, and after that I'll go ahead to alter this pattern. So you can come in by 1.5 here from the neckline, because what we have there is slightly, it's an alter neck, sorry. Now you now connect to your armhole. Now if you feel this part is not well connected, like you're not okay with what I have here, you can go ahead to readjust. There's always room for readjustment before going ahead to cut this out on your own pattern paper. Now after this, go ahead to measure your neckline. You'll be using it as a guide to cut out the collar. So what I have there is about 5 inches, and I'll go ahead to cut this out. After cutting this out, I'll go ahead to cut out the back pattern. To cut out the back pattern, I added a zipper allowance to this pattern. All I'll do is just to place this. Now for the zipper allowance, you can use 1.5 inches or 2 inches. What I will now do is to trace out this pattern instead of going ahead to recut another pattern. So just like I said, if you feel you're not okay with what is on the neckline, you can go ahead to readjust. Now after marking this, I'm going to go ahead to mark or take out the bulginess at the back of this dress, because it's the back at the zipper you're going to do that. But before doing that, I'll mark a basic neckline of 1 inch by 3 inches, because this is a turtle neckline. So I'll just go ahead to connect. Also, you're going to still take the measurements you have at this point. So whatever measurement you have here, go ahead to take it. So let's say what I have here is between 5 inches to 5.5. So you'll be adding it up with the neckline of the front to cut out the collar piece of your dress, right? Now, so since I traced out my measurements, what I'll do is to replace those dots that I have on this pattern. Before doing that, I'll mark out my bust line, my under bust line before going ahead to mark my dart. And my dart will start after my zipper, which is my nipple to nipple divided by 2, and which is 7 inches divided by 2. I have 3.5. I'll mark this here, connect a straight line. Now, what I'm going to do is to go ahead to mark ½ inch on both sides, just like we did for the front. All I'm doing now is I'm replacing my dart because we have already marked this out because we used the front pattern to trace that of the back. Now I'll mark ½ inch here and I'll be extending it up. Just like I said earlier, we'll be taking out the zipper bulge of the back to make it more relaxed. After this, I'll go ahead to cut this out. Now, after cutting this, you want to get the lower part of this dress. Now, the lower part of this dress is like a gathers. Now, all you have to do is to get the full length of your dress. And after getting the full length of your dress, let's say the full length of this dress is 60 inches. And you minus your half length from it, that is 17 inches. You take it out of 60 inches. What you have is 43 inches. You're going to be cutting about 3 to 4 yards by 47 inches to gather for the lower part of this dress. Now, if you don't want to cut it in form of a gathers, you can use a flip, but you will not use the actual waistline of your waist. You're going to add extra to make it fuller, but while making this, a gathers will be easier to work with. Now, next I'm going to add up the neckline of the front and the neckline of the back. The neckline of the back is about 5.5, while the neckline of the front giving me a total of 9.5. And note, this neckline is on fold, so I'm going to go ahead to fold what I have here into two. Now, after folding that, I'll go ahead to mark the midpoint. That is the 4.5 inches and 5 inches together, 9.5. Find the midpoint. So at one end, I'll come up by ½ inch. Now, from that ½ inch, I'll connect it all the way to this point. Now, after I'm done connecting, I will now go ahead to the measurement I want to use for the collar area of the turtle neckline. Let's say what we use there is about 2 inches. You can use 2.5 for it. So now go ahead to connect those lines. After you're done cutting, this is what you'll be having. That means you're done cutting out the turtle neckline. That is the collar area of this dress, right? Now, you want to also, I'll go ahead to like place it to show you what I mean. So this is it. You'll be cutting this on fold and you'll be attaching it to the neckline of the dress. At the neckline of this dress, you notice like there's more like a slight, is it pleats or on the neckline. You can go ahead to like open up the neckline a bit to gather it around your collar, right? You can just go ahead to open it a bit, or you can just leave it the way it was before if you don't want to like add that little pleat on it. Now I'll be adding an extension to the lower part of this pattern so that I'll use it to cut out the belt. Now I added an extension of 7 inches to my pattern. I'll just draw out my waistline. Now from this waistline I added extra 7 inches to it. Now what I'll do is I'm going to come up by 4 inches here and go up a little. I'm trying to like mark out the under bust belt on it and I'll start curving. So I forgot to mark my hip circumference, then add a sewing allowance. You don't need much sewing allowance on this belt part. 1 inch is okay. Now you can already use your pattern that you cut out to do that. Now I'll go up by 3. I'll measure 3 inches after my waistline and I'll start taking this all the way down, and I'll also go ahead to connect it this way. So this is what I have here. Now you have to like take note of your under bust also for the upper part of your pattern. And if you're not okay with the shape at the lower part, you can always adjust. So at the under bust, I'll mark this out and I'll start extending it to the upper part. So I'll now go ahead to cut this out, right? But before cutting out, I'll extend my dart all the way to the lower part of my pattern this way, and I'll be cutting this out. So you'll be sewing your pattern, that is after drafting your pattern, you're going to use your pattern to also draft out your under bust belt, which you're going to wear on top of the dress. Now that is after making the upper part, you attach a gathers at the lower part, then you now make your under bust belt and wear on top of the dress, because the dress looks like a two-in-one dress. So after cutting this, let's move over to the back pattern of this belt, right? Now this is the back pattern, and I have added extra inches to it, like we did for the front. Now I'll bring the front belt and I'll mark out what I have there, so that the back, the side will meet the side of the back also. Now you can now go ahead to create any design you want here. So I didn't get to see the back part of the dress, and I'll just mark like 4 inches. If you don't want it to be this low, you can go up by 3 inches, and after that I'll go ahead to connect all the way. Now I'll go ahead to extend the zipper side. Now I'll be taking out the zipper side from this dress also. Now you also want to take note of your chest line, right? The back pattern will start from the chest line, so that the armhole of the front will meet the armhole of that of the back pattern also. But you can decide to go low at the chest line, then connect it towards the armhole side of this dress. So I'll just go ahead and I'll cut out my pattern. After cutting this, we can now go ahead to mark the lacing area. I also extend my dart by 4 inches to the lower part, and after that I'll go ahead to mark the lacing bar. I'm using about 1.5 or 2 inches, and after this I'll cut this out and also cut out the dart, and after that I'm done with this tutorial. If you have a question, go ahead to ask your question. Thanks.